when a Magic release is right on our doorstep and we are more and more excited to get our products in our hand, crack some packs, and have some fun, often we find ourselves blowing through all of the product that we spent our hard-earned money on, seeking the crazy hits, the serialized whatever, and the rarest treatments of cards that we can find. But I argue that there's a better way to go about opening Magic the Gathering products. And yeah, go ahead and cue the only buy singles community, because here, while we appreciate that that is a better way to get more value for your dollar, we also understand that there is value in opening sealed products. There is some fun to be had, and some people choose to chase down their most exciting treatments and craziest cardboard in sealed pack form. And so in today's video, I'm going to break down ways that as someone who opens sealed Magic the Gathering product, you, the consumer, can make your money go further, because that's something we really like to do here. We like to help everyone's dollar stretch as far as possible. So join me today as we break down everything from play boosters to collector boosters to commander products, and we do it from a standpoint of being someone opening product by themselves and opening product with a group and with friends. Let's have some fun in today's video and tell you some of the tricks I use to make my money go a bit further. Now, as we get started, I will lay a caveat. I'm open to suggestions, so in the comment section below, let me know if you have any tips and tricks that I'm not listing here that you and your friends use to kind of make those booster boxes feel a bit better. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the like button on this video, because for a small channel like mine, it helps more than you can possibly imagine. But I want to start today talking about the play and collector booster box experience. And we're going to start where you're opening a play or booster box solo. If you find yourself alone, getting your order in a bit early, or maybe it's right on time because nobody ships early. We wouldn't do that ever, would we? Would we, Magic stores? If you find yourself in this position, there are several things you can do to make this product feel a bit better. The first thing I like to do is I like to make sure I go through all of the cards. I don't really like to just skip ahead to the rares, and in doing this, I pick out a couple commons and uncommons that, well, I think are absolute trash. I put my Magic the Gathering skills and my evaluation prowess to the test, and I say these cards in this pile are absolute trash. And with Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast adding more and more power into the common and even more so the uncommon section of the booster box and booster pack, I find myself wrong more often than I care to admit. Really evaluate these commons and uncommons and see if you can pick the ones that are trash and check back later and see if you're right. And while you're in there, see if you have any decks that some of these commons and uncommons, the ones that you don't think are trash, of course, can go into right now. Do you have any slots that are wanting? Do you have any direct upgrades for cards that you are currently playing? And try to pick out deck strategies and cards you want to make use of immediately. And while you're in there, let's go ahead and order that pack. Notice we haven't even gotten to the bombs yet, so let's start to evaluate some of those more rare and mythic rare cards and put the pack in order. What cards do we think are never going to be playable in a draft or limited standpoint? Maybe Commander's your jam. What cards will you never play? And then all the way up to, these are going to be the best cards in this pack for this format. Doing this is going to give you a task, a little bit of fun for your packs, and make them feel like they're going a bit farther. But we don't always have to focus on the play aspect, especially when we're solo. When we're solo opening a box, we often really dig into and dive into the value. And this is where those mythic rares and rares come in handy. I often try to sort them by value. Now, some of us follow the secondary market extremely aggressively, and even if we do, values are shifting and changing right up to the point of release. So I find it's very fun to break these cards down and see, can I find the most value, the least value, and anything in between. The way I do this is I often give myself sections $1 to $2, $3 to $4, $5 to $12, a little bit bigger section in there, and then $12 and up if I think, man, some of these cards are really good. And you would be surprised how intricate and difficult this gets the more packs you open. If you got a play booster box in front of you, draft booster, whatever Magic the Gathering is doing right now, you could have a ton of cards to evaluate, and I find that my skills are pretty on point, but I'll miss a big one here or there, and it just adds a little mini game to opening these packs. Furthermore, I like to take it a step further and try to pick some sleepers. I give myself 3 to 5 slots of sleepers that I say, hey, I think right now these cards are probably undervalued, and I think they're going to be crazy valuable in the future, and sometimes even do the inverse. So I think it's a bootlegger stash from Streets of New Capenna that was an absolute bomb, and if you look at the price of that card now, well, it's not very great. I like to find myself and challenge myself through looking at values of these rare and mythics, these bombs, these cards that I just spent all of my hard-earned money on, and seeing, can I pinpoint some of their value? This is not just a play booster box game. This game is extra fun when you take into account the collector booster box and all of the crazy treatments. And often we need to do this because collector booster boxes in today's day and age are wildly expensive. But often you're not opening these packs just by yourself. You're opening them with a friend, with a group of friends, whatever it might be. And if you find yourself together, the most obvious answer is to use the cards to play Magic. More often than not, I see groups of people, pods at the local game store, cracking a box, cracking packs, saying, I pulled this, but not using those cards to build decks. And no, I don't necessarily mean you're forced into do traditional draft or traditional limited. While these are wonderful ways to experience a booster box, to crack some packs with friends, you can think outside the box. Play super small Magic, a deck of just a few cards, 1 land granted every single turn, and life totals of 10. You can play a rush format. If I find a link, I'll put it down in the comment section below, or if you're in my Discord, you can send me a link to the rush format, because I don't remember where the official documentation is, but that format is really fun when opening a booster box, eliminating crazy powerful bomb cards, and having a unique experience every single playthrough. This is obviously something you can do when you sit down with friends, but again, it doesn't have to be just surrounding the idea of playing limited, playing draft, or playing traditional Magic. You could play other mini games like we did with Value when we were solo opening boxes. Add some incentive to your next Commander game, your next limited game that you play for fun. The person that opens the best card, the bomb card, the most expensive card, maybe gets a small life jump. Maybe if you open a worse card, you open a terrible pool, so you guaranteed to get to go first. Things like that can make this experience feel more welcoming. Playing mini games with your friends, opening the packs, and actually evaluating these cards is a way that I believe we can make these packs feel better. Now, I'm not saying that they are going to be cheaper. If you like cheap Magic the Gathering products, I recommend that you follow the secondary market, you follow all the data that we put down on this channel, and you get yourself a viable local game store. I use MinMax Games. I encourage you, obviously, use your game store, but I use MinMax Games as my game store because I just trust their pre-orders. They lock in their pre-orders, and they always have great, fair prices. So big shout out to MinMax Games. They're not a sponsor of this channel. They're just friends, and frankly, I like the way they do business. But we don't only just open collector boxes and play boxes. Often we're getting sealed Commander decks, and sealed Commander decks are a massive, huge portion of the product sold to players like you and I. And these sealed Commander decks don't just have to be the advice, well, sit down and play Commander. Yes, obviously, if you sit down with a pod, buy the 4 Commander decks, shuffle up, and have a game of Commander, I think that is the best way to be introduced to any set of Magic the Gathering right now. Heck, looking back at something like Aether Drift, a non-popular Magic the Gathering set from Magic's past, it was still fun to sit down in a pod, play the decks, and we could do so for $40-50 a person when you buy the deck bundle on the secondary market or from your local game store. And I encourage you, don't just buy these, sleeve these, and sit around and do nothing. But there are more ways you can make even the Commander decks go further, even if you're opening them by yourself. The first thing you can do is you can sort the deck to any Commander building template. Know the deck's strengths, know the deck's weaknesses, where you're lacking, what cards that when you come across, you know, I have a ton of this card type, or I'm severely lacking, so I better make this one count. Sorting that deck against any kind of template, how many bombs do I have, how many cards in my starting strategies, how many board wipes, etc., can be important for your first playthrough. It can help you understand the deck, the dynamic of the commander that you've chosen, and how Wizards of the Coast happens to have designed that specific sealed product. As we march through the ages of Commander Sealed, things are going to change, so it's good to know before you sit down and get into your first game. I also like to play the game where I pick trash cards, except with a specific list, I can be more direct. Instead of cards that I think are bad, I can pick cards that I think are bad in this strategy. Maybe it's a powerful card, but doesn't meet the rest of what the deck is trying to do. Maybe I think that card is terrible, and in my first playthrough, it actually ends up being awesome. I like to lay the deck out and track these things to give myself a little bit more fun, a little more incentive, and a little more thought process behind cracking a sealed commander deck. And finally, for those that are not for the faint of heart, take all the basic lands out and try to organize the deck by value. I've only tried this once and I failed miserably, but it seems like it could be a fun challenge. Heck, maybe we'll do some of that in the future, but that's only for the extremely aggressive solo commander crackers. For the group commander crackers, there are several just simple things that we can do. The first thing you can do is the commander deck shuffle. Look, I know that everyone wants the deck that they want out of the pot, and everyone wants to get their deck in their hands and play with their deck. But consider cracking decks, sleeving up, and then rolling a dice for shuffling decks. Play someone else's deck for the first time. Get your hands on a commander that you thought you would enjoy the least, that you thought you were interested in but didn't quite make the list for you to spend your hard-earned money on, and play that commander. It's important to note that this is a wonderful way to find new ways that you might enjoy Magic the Gathering. Hate playing Prowess, but man, that Prowess commander deck was a lot of fun. Well, maybe your tastes have changed, your thoughts have grown, and the Prowess archetype has, grown and shifted over Magic's more than 10 years in the Prowess space. Actually, I don't know if it's 10 years in the Prowess space. Don't quote me in the comment section below. I don't know when Prowess came out. All in all, there are tons of things you can do. You can also use the collector sampler pack, often found in these commander products, as either a bit of incentive or a bit of deck juice. Something we like to do around our table is crack that collector sampler pack, and anything you pull out of it can be inserted in the deck. Furthermore, you can do game trades or permanent trades if you and your friends want to, and say, that's good for my deck, what I pulled is good for your deck, let's swap, let's add them to our decks and have a one-off bomb. This doesn't really affect the play of Commander as much because it's going into the 99, the likelihood of you finding a tutor and finding this card in a pre-con are few and far between, and well, there's a lot of people out there to answer the card, but it can add a bit of juice, a bit of fun to opening the product, to cracking those packs, and getting your dollar to go further. All in all, the big message here is when you're opening a Magic the Gathering box, I ultra encourage you. Do not just crack the packs, look for the high value cards, and move on next. You are spending your hard-earned money on this product. It is important that you get the most bang for your buck. And remember, it's a game. It's meant there for fun. The more you can do with your product that you get, with your cardboard that you have fun with, the better off I think the release and the experience is going to be for each and every one of us. And I hope this video helps you embrace a bit of that. Thank you so much for hanging out today. If you have any tips or anything that I forgot, anything you use to make your dollar go further in the pack cracking, box opening, Magic the Gathering, or any TCG space, let me know in the comments section below. I will be here again. Thanks for hitting all the buttons we talked about earlier. Until next time, you guys know me. My name is Josh. I'm going to link a video over here that you can go check out. And until next time, we'll see you around. All right, goodbye.